Hello folks, welcome back to the most fabulous corner of the internet, Marvelous Videos. Today we're exploring a highly underrated horror flick, Rumpelstiltskin, which was directed by Mark Jones in 1995. Transforming a beloved fairy tale into a terrifying horror story is truly a remarkable feat. So let's see how Rumpelstiltskin horrified audiences and take a look back at his ancient origins. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The fairy tale. The most common story of Rumpelstiltskin begins when a peasant brags about his daughter's ability to spin straw into gold. These were the times when many were behind the secret knowledge of alchemy, the process of turning everyday objects into gold. So the peasant's claims began to spread like wildfire and eventually reached the ears of the king himself. The king asks the peasant whether he is telling the truth, but instead of taking this opportunity to correct himself, the braggart says, "Yes, my daughter indeed can spin straw into gold." So the king decides to test it out and locks her up in a room in his castle with yarn and lots of straw. He promises the peasant and his daughter enticing and valuable rewards if she's successful, but promises to put them both to death if she can't. The daughter is completely distraught, as it's now up to her to save the lives of her and her father. As luck would have it, an imp appears at night and offers to spin the straw into gold if she gives him something in return. She agrees to give him the jewelry she wore, and soon the imp spins all the yarn into gold. The king wakes up the next day and unlocks the door to see the peasant's daughter sleeping next to heaps of gold. Though he's impressed, he still has some doubts in his mind, so he takes her to a bigger room filled with even more straw and tells her if she turns all this into gold too, he will marry her. But he reminds her that he will not hesitate to kill her and her father if he figures out that he lied. The daughter accepts, but tells him that this will be the last time she spins gold for him. As night falls, the imp arrives once again, but the daughter has no more jewelry left to trade. The imp offers to work for her now only if she promises to give him her firstborn. The daughter agrees, and the imp finishes her work for her. As the sun rises, the king bursts into the room and, happy to see all the gold, marries the peasant's daughter immediately. Later, she is crowned queen of the kingdom. Not long after, the queen gives birth to a healthy baby, but she has no time to celebrate as the imp returns, demanding payment for his services. The queen begs the imp to leave her child alone and promises to make it up to him by giving him all the wealth she has, but the imp refuses to budge. He tells her that he will return in 3 days to claim the child, and the only way the queen can rescue her child is by saying his name. After the imp leaves, the queen exhausts her mental energy trying to come up with a name that belongs to the mystical creature. After 2 days of unsuccessful tries, the stressed and distraught queen decides to take a walk in the woods. She sees a cottage in the woods and decides to walk towards it. As luck would have it, the cottage belongs to none other than the imp himself. She moves towards the window of the cottage and begins to eavesdrop. The imp, excited about taking the newborn all for himself, begins to celebrate his almost win and sings about how the queen will never be able to guess his name, as his name is Rumpelstiltskin. The queen, happy to have finally secured the safety of her child, goes home to a full night's sleep. When the imp arrives the next day, the queen initially feigns ignorance, but then tells his name out loud, which angers the imp so much that he storms out of the palace, never to be seen again.
Join me, sweet meat.
Not a happily ever after. Since the 1995 movie is a horror film, Rumpelstiltskin transforms from a tiny imp to a huge, hunchbacked, scary creature. The movie starts in 15th century Europe, and we see Rumpelstiltskin run away with a baby after striking a similar deal with a peasant woman. The villagers all band together to rescue the child, and a crafty witch traps him in a small jade effigy with the stipulation that he will only be released when a true heartfelt wish about a child child is made upon it. We then come back to the present day, where the jade statuette reaches an antique store owned by a witch named Matilda. One of the visitors to this place is Shelley, the wife of the recently deceased Los Angeles cop Russell Stewart and the mother of her newborn son Johnny. The stone immediately catches the eye of Shelley, who's intrigued by its wish-granting abilities, and she decides to buy it, despite Matilda's repeated warnings. Back home, Shelley holds the jade effigy and wishes that her dead husband be given a chance to meet their son, as Russell had passed away right before Johnny's birth. Unknown to Shelley, this frees Rumpelstiltskin. That night, Shelley dreams of having a romantic encounter with her husband, and when she wakes, she is shocked to see Rumpelstiltskin in his place. Rumpelstiltskin begins to demand Johnny as payment for fulfilling her wish, but Shelley runs away with her baby. She returns with the cops, who don't find the creature anywhere in her house. The next night, Shelley decides to live at her friend Hildy's house, where she finds out about the fairy tale of Rumpelstiltskin. To her shock, he appears once again in Hildy's house and asks her to hand over the baby. Shelley manages to escape with her son, but unfortunately, Hildy is killed in the process. As Shelley gets into a car to drive away, Rumpelstiltskin follows her, first with a motorcycle whose owner he killed, and then a tanker truck. By the time morning breaks out, Shelley reaches Bakersfield, where the car breaks down. With the threat of Rumpelstiltskin still looming over her, she flags down a chauvinistic motorist, Max Bergman, who works as a TV show host. Max does not believe in Shelley's story, but offers her a ride anyway. Rumpelstiltskin begins to chase Max in an intense chase, which ends with Rumpelstiltskin crashing his tanker into a dune buggy that results in an explosion. A local cop arrives to check it out, but unfortunately, Rumpelstiltskin is not dead yet, and he kills the local deputy. Max, Shelley, and Johnny flee the scene and hide in an abandoned diner. Shelley puts two and two together and realizes that Rumpelstiltskin came from the effigy she bought. But before she can call Matilda for help, she is arrested with Max under suspicion of murder of the deputy. She uses their one phone call to reach Matilda, who promises to help them out, but it's too late as the creature breaks in, slaughters the officers, and abducts Johnny. Now convinced of their innocence, the wounded sheriff lets them go, and they soon catch up with Matilda, who tells them that Rumpelstiltskin has no soul and he wants Johnny's soul to eat. He can only have Johnny's soul if he completes a graveyard ritual before the night ends. Matilda teaches them an ancient chant, which is to be chanted out loud 3 times, and advises them to arm themselves with fire and straw to stop Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin watches all this through his vision and, using his telekinetic powers, chokes Matilda to death. Shelley and Max locate the nearest graveyard and rush there, but they're completely helpless against the magic of Rumpelstiltskin. They see a barn nearby, which thankfully has straw. Loading it all into the front-load tractor they found, they drive up to the graveyard once again. Setting the straw on fire, they drive it right into the soulless creature and severely injure him. Shelley uses this moment to utter out the chant 3 times, and that traps Rumpelstiltskin in the effigy once again. They find Johnny alive and unharmed, and Max asks Shelley out for a date. 3 years later, a young girl finds the effigy again, and we're left to wonder if Rumpelstiltskin will make an appearance once again. There are a lot of similarities between the story of this film and the fairy tale, notably desperate mothers, babies, and a whole lot of straw.
A bit more than you bargained for, I wager. The baby.
Really ancient origins. Many fairy tale researchers, mainly those from Nova University of Lisbon and Durham University, believe that the story of Rumpelstiltskin is somewhere around 4,000 years old. The story we told you at the beginning of the video comes from the collection of the Brothers Grimm, and it has a lot of different endings. In one variant, the imp stomps his foot in anger so strongly that it creates a deep chasm in the ground where he falls down. In another ending, he stomps his right foot and it gets stuck in the ground, and in his anger, he pulls at his left leg, effectively tearing himself into 2 parts. That's a truly gory ending. No wonder it's not that popular. A different ending tells us that he flew away using a cooking ladle. That's not all. There are many variations of the story from all over the world. In Whoopity Story, the Scottish fairy tale which was brought into the mainstream by Robert Chambers, a sly fairy takes on the role of Rumpelstiltskin. Other versions include Klamushka from Russia, Tom Tit-Tot from the United Kingdom, The Lazy Beauty and Her Aunts from Ireland, Rui do Quedido from South America, and Daiku to Oniroku from Japan. You can also read Gilitrut in Icelandic, Joadame in Arabic, Ponsi Mansi from Hungary, Rikdin Rikdon from France, and Svilidreta from Croatia if you want to find out more about Rumpelstiltskin's different avatars. The name Rumpelstiltskin comes from an old game played mostly by German children called Rumpelstilt oder der Poppart. So the name has German origins and talks about a goblin with a limp who makes a lot of noise as he walks. It can be translated into English as Little Rattle Stilt. Researchers who have studied the fairy tale believe that the story is a coming-of-age fable to teach naive and innocent women not to trust anyone easily and to gain access to the masculine world, like the queen gained access to the name of Rumpelstiltskin to lead a happy married life where they are not taken advantage of.
Give me the baby John, or guess my name.
The powers of Rumpelstiltskin. Most versions of the story show Rumpelstiltskin as an immortal being with unbelievable and incredible powers. We don't know where his powers came from, nor do we know the full extent of his magic. In the movie, too, Rumpelstiltskin is immortal and no one can kill him. He can only be disarmed with the help of chaff and fire, but he seems to be out of the touch of mortality. No wonder the only thing to subdue him was to trap him inside a stone. He also has a lot of magical powers with which he can transform himself and other things, like straw into gold. With his telekinetic powers, not only can he move objects, but also inflict harm on anyone he wishes. He seems to also have the ability to see things happening far away from him using spells. Although modern illustrations of the fairy tale show him as a cute, short creature, Rumpelstiltskin from the movie is truly fuel for nightmares. He is as tall as an average human being and has sharp ears. He has terrifying red lips and a chilling smile, and is slightly bent over because of his hunchback. All the scars on his face add to his malicious look. Where can you see Rumpelstiltskin? Rumpelstiltskin is a popular figure in the media, and he currently has 7 movies named after him. The first known media adaptation of Rumpelstiltskin was an American silent film by Raymond B. West. Ulf Zengerling and Herbert B. Fredersdorf adapted the story into German films in 1940 and 1955 respectively. In 1987, a joint production of America and Israel followed, and you guys already know about the 1995 version. The first animated feature of Rumpelstiltskin was created in 1985 by Canadian directors Sebastian Grunstra and Pino van Lamsverde. Besides these, Rumpelstiltskin has appeared in a few major franchises like Shrek, The Muppets, Once Upon a Time, and Ever After High.
Could be. And if I fail?
I shall take him from you.
The latest rendition of the fairy tale. On April 8th of 2025, the latest reimagining of Rumpelstiltskin hit the theaters in the form of a scary horror movie. The movie follows the same story we know and love, but takes a turn for the dark when the imp strikes a deal with the devil to get revenge against the mother who had not fulfilled her part of the deal. As he lures her son into the forest, we can't help but wonder if this time Rumpelstiltskin will be successful. Written and directed by Andy Edwards, who's known for other horror movies like The Vampire of Soho and Cinderella's Revenge, this low-budget movie is a fresh and memorable take on the classic character. Marvelous verdict. Rumpelstiltskin has cemented himself as a dual character, the lovable imp from fairy tales and the terrifying creature from horror flicks. We're not sure which version of this character we prefer the most, but we are a bit partial towards the fairy tale character, and he's definitely easier on the eyes. Which version of the character is your favorite? Do let us know in the comments, and don't forget to leave us a thumbs up if you liked this video. And if you haven't already, subscribe and click on that bell icon so you can always stay up to date with our content. See you soon. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.